Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Fowler with the Apartment Owners Association, and it is great to have you with us today. We're going to be talking about LA County rent increases that are coming up here, different deadlines than than the LA RSO or other places. So we're going to talk about that. And before we do, just want to say that AOA is dedicated to your real estate success. And so we're trying to come up with the content that you need when you need it. And we're super excited about the $1 million trade show and landlording conference that we're going to be holding at the Long Beach Convention Center. That's going to be August 22nd. Normally we do it in October, but this one's in August. And we'll have at least 150 different vendors that are there that all cater to rental property owners. So it's a must go. We'll also have, excuse me, over 20 different seminars for you to choose from, all in one day. It's crazy. And so I hope we're able to meet you there for that one. And then let's see what else. Oh, if you're not a member, that's okay. You can go anyway. And we are asking people to bring canned food, and that goes to, I believe it's the Union Rescue Mission, and they're doing a great work helping people get off of the street, and they're equipping them with real life skills so that they can get a job and become productive members of this society here. And so that's one, if you remember that, please do, and that's going to go to a good cause. So that's really the only thing that we're asking. We're not charging a fee. And if you're not a member, we're actually going to give you a free 6-month membership. And look, we don't even take your credit card information and you get full access. So it's really no strings attached. We just want to give you a taste, and we believe that the services we're providing are going to help you. And again, our goal is your real estate success. We want to have the group of apartment owners that are the most successful in the whole state. And so here we go. So we're gonna, after we do this live stream or after we do the presentation, we will take questions. If you're watching on AOAUSA.com, then there is a blue little bubble on the bottom right side, and you can type your question in there, and our speaker will be able to answer that. And we'll be putting out more content like this, so please subscribe, hit the notification. Sometimes we put stuff out that is not a live stream, and it's just information that you need. So if you do want to subscribe and hit the notification so you get it when it's happening. And anyway, so just moving on here, the SNS Law Group they do a lot of different things, but one of the things that I've noticed is that they continue to have a stellar reputation on Google reviews, Yelp, everywhere. It's all 5-star reviews, and their focus is real estate and business law. So yes, that includes landlord-tenant litigation, and among other things. So anyway, that's just a little information on SNS. And so our speaker today he's one of the co-founders and partner at SNS Law Group. He specializes in real estate and business law. Like we said, he handles landlord-tenant disputes, contract negotiations, mergers and acquisitions, and real estate transactions. With over 10 years of managing assets that are over 100 million, our speaker brings a unique edge to his practice. He holds a bachelor's degree from CSUN. He also has a Juris Doctorate from the University of West LA. He's known for his client connections and problem-solving skills. Our speaker today delivers effective legal solutions. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today, Bijan Shakibkoo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the introduction, and it's always a pleasure working with you and your association. We'll just dive right into this. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So my name is Bijan Shakibkoo, everyone. I am a co-founder and managing partner of SNS Law Group. Our primary practice areas is anywhere within the real estate and business law realm. I do handle a lot of landlord-tenant disputes. Majority of them do entail evictions and habitability issues and whatnot. But today, mainly what we're going to be speaking about, and I'll get into this overview of it, is allowable rent increases for properties located in unincorporated LA County. So I'm aware that a lot of people were excited and thought, oh, maybe we can increase our rents more in the LA city. But unfortunately, that is not the case. This only applies to the increases that are allowable under the unincorporated LA County. And what I tell my clients a lot of the time is, really the best way they could figure out whether if they are in unincorporated LA County is just pretty much looking at the cities. So if the city is situated, for example, in Gardena, yeah, Gardena will be in LA County, but Gardena is its own incorporated city. So it won't fall under its unincorporated LA County jurisdiction. And we're going to be diving deeper into what is the rent stabilization ordinance and the tenant ordinance for the unincorporated LA County. And there's two types. There's fully covered and partially covered units. Under the unincorporated LA Los Angeles County, and it's short for RSTPO. So if you hear that, just know that it falls under the unincorporated Los Angeles County. And a lot of the times, and I tell my clients all the time, if you want to brush up on the law, or if you want to have any questions for the laws and how the fully covered and partially covered units really work, and if you don't call my firm and you want to just speak to someone in the county, you can always call its Department of Business and Consumer Affairs. And they have a website, and they also have a local number that you could call them and ask any questions as far as increases and whatnot. But the RSTPO was really enacted in 2020. And the real purpose behind it is two reasons. One is it sets a rent cap limit. And the other reason is the just cause eviction. And I'm sure we're all aware of what the just cause is. And obviously you have to have cause now in order to evict your tenant. So it's not just a simple, hey, here's a 30-day notice and we want to terminate the tenancy. So the RSTPO applies to the following real properties. And what I just spoke about a little bit earlier, it breaks down to two prongs. One is a fully covered and one is a partially covered. And I'm going to be talking about what is a fully covered rental property. A fully covered rental unit under the RSTPO primarily focuses on multifamily. So it's 2 units or more on the same parcel. And it was built before February 1st of 1995. So that's really going to help you determine, I understand now that my property is under the unincorporated LA County, but how do I know if it's considered to sit under the rent control? And how do I know if it's fully covered or partially covered? And the way you can determine that is you figure out, okay, well, I have 2 or more units on here. And all right, the building was built before 1995 of February 1st. And again, the effects of it is the rent caps and the just cause evictions. And I'll get into what those rent caps are, and including with the new law that's passing in July 1st of 2024. So the partially covered units. Partially covered units are primarily single family homes and condominiums, and anything that is built after 1995. So if it's a multifamily building and it's built after 1995, then it will fall under the partially covered units. And just to give you guys a little brief, this is going to be a quick discussion. There's not really much depth to it, but I'll give a little clarity, and if there's any questions after, I'll be happy to answer. And there is no rent cap applicable for these partial covered units. However, you do have to keep in mind of the statewide Rent Control Act, which is AB 1482. And now we're going to get into a little bit of the rent increases. So under a fully covered property, starting July 1st of 2024, you could raise your tenant's rent at a cap of 4.275%. And that's with the simple 30-day notice to change the terms of the tenancy to increase the rent. Pretty straightforward here, nothing really complex. And keep in mind, the LA City doesn't really have this, but the county unincorporated does, and they consider certain units luxury units. And if you have a fully covered rental unit in the unincorporated LA County, and it's a luxury unit, then you could increase it. You won't be capped. The cap will be at 10%. You will be capped. The cap will be at 10%, but you won't be capped at that 4.275. And to determine whether if you do have a luxury unit in the unincorporated rent control of LA County, it has to be 2 or less bedrooms. The unit is located in a building that is 25 or more units. And then also, as if the lease agreement, not really the lease, but as of September 2018, the rent was at least $4,000. So if you have a tenant who is paying at least $4,000 in a 1 bedroom or less, and it's in a building that's 25 or more units, then you're capped at that 10%. And it's funny because it kind of coincides with the Tenant Protection Act. And that's why I always, let my clients know, it's very important to be able to determine where your property is situated in order for you to determine how you can increase the rents and what kind of, power you have as far as evictions and whatnot. Under a partially covered unit, increases are permitted. So what we spoke about earlier, it's single family homes or condominiums. And there is no cap for a partially covered unit. However, I do want to keep you guys in mind about the TPA, the AB 1482. So always keep that in mind. But under the Los Angeles County Rent Stabilization Ordinance, if it's a single family home, which is a partially covered unit, then it's unlimited, the increase that you can make. Obviously, we want to cap that at once a year, but the amount that you can increase there is no cap. And again, keep that in mind, the AB 1482. And the types of notices that are required, if it's more than that 10%, you issue them a 90-day notice. If it's less than the 10%, then you issue them a 30-day notice. And that's pretty much it. We'll take any questions and see where it goes.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So it's very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple. And we will take your questions now. And I'll start off just with the first question for those people that are LA County and they're not under the 4.275% maximum allowable increase. Do you know what the max allowable is under AB 1482 for this area?
For this area, under AB 1482, if the property is a Tenant Protection Act property, then you are capped at that 10% or the local CPI. So it can't exceed the 10%. It's either local CPI, which I believe this year was at 8 point. I don't have it off the top of my head. I think it's 8 point something.
Yeah.
And but it can't exceed the 10%.
Right. Yeah. So I have 3.9%. 3.9% would be the area that it would fall under, plus the 5. So that would be the 8.9. And the reason that we did this video now is because you have to serve these notices 30 days in advance, right?
Correct.
So we needed to do it now.
Yeah, right now is the time. Whether if you go through my office or you guys have your own notices, by all means, if you want to get those increases going, right now is the time for
Yeah, so now's the time to do it. And so 8.9%, or it's the 4.275. Tell us, what should people be careful with when they're doing their math here?
Well, I think the main thing that they should take a look at is, obviously, if they don't have any legal representation, they should look out to seek one. Or it's simple. You could look up laws online. That's helpful. But as long as you're staying below, if you're doing your math and you're seeing that it's hitting the 10% or it's going over, then I would start to have concerns, because if it's under a Tenant Protection Act, if it's exceeding that 10% amount, then at that point you should take a look at, maybe I'm doing my calculations incorrectly.
Okay. And what if they're off by one? What do they round up, or how do they, when they're making this calculation, how do they do that?
Typically, it has to be very, specific, but if it's rounded, it's doable. But again, we can't exceed that 10%.
Yeah. And so no, on the 4.275 one. So how do they, are they going to round up or round down on that one?
I would recommend to round down to play it safe. But again, we have to see, depending on, how much the increase is going to be and how they're calculating it. Then
right. Yeah. So
determine.
AOA will never calculate a rent increase for you, because if you're off by a penny, then it messes your whole world up for a long time. But on YouTube, we do have Jerry, and again, Facebook, you guys put in a question if you want. Okay, on YouTube, Jerry. So they're living in Lancaster. We have both incorporated and unincorporated. How do I determine which my property is in? So great question. So how do you know if you're unincorporated or just regular?
Yeah, if you're situated in those type of the areas where there is a mix, then honestly, what I would say, the best way to figure that out, and if you're really not sure, is call the Department of Consumer Business Affairs. They have a hotline. You could call them, letting them know, hey, my property is situated in this area. This is the address. Does this fall under the unincorporated, or does this fall under the incorporated of the city?
There you go. And here's a good question from Robert, because I think he's conflating the two together. Is it a 5% plus 4.275? So like the unincorporated LA County, is it 4.275 plus 5, or is it 4.275?
If it's unincorporated LA County, and this is very specific, are we talking about a fully covered rental unit or a partially covered rental unit?
Yeah, so fully covered, where it's coming under
it's 4.275.
Right. So with the AB 1482, it's the CPI plus that 5%. So that's where it's easy to get that one confused, guys. So
correct.
If it's LA unincorporated, it's just 4.275. And I had cited the 3.9%. That is the plus 5, and that's if it's LA County, not under RSO. Is that right, Bijan?
That's correct. And to really simplify this, is if you have determined that your property is a fully covered property, you could completely ignore the Tenant Protection Act, because you're only focusing on your local ordinance, which is the 4.75 under a fully covered property. And then obviously when it goes to partial, then that will change and whatnot.
Great. Okay. And then also, just again, like July 1st for LA unincorporated. Everywhere else, it's August 1st.
Correct.
So let's keep the time frame. We got different numbers. We have different dates.
Yes.
So let's keep that straight. Jonathan on YouTube, what is the cap right now before 7/1/2024?
The cap is at 4%, I believe. I think it was 4.3%. And I have, it's 4%. That's correct. It's 4% right now.
And at this point, it's almost irrelevant in the sense that you have just a day. Oh yeah, I guess it would, if it was higher, then he would want to get a rent increase in before the deadline, I guess. But that doesn't work. No, it's too late, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, if it's anywhere between January 1st of 2024 and June 30th of 2024, that is the 4%. And then obviously after starting July, it'll raise up to the whopping 4.275.
Help us, right? Help us. Yeah. We want to make renting great again.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, Brown Eyes, what is the rent increase amount for the unincorporated area? So again, it is
4.2. So unincorporated, fully covered, 4.275.
Right. All right. Michael, please explain the partial coverage versus full coverage again.
Okay, so it's confusing, and I get clients that ask me this all the time. So it's really what you have to do is you first determine whether, the easiest part to determine is whether if your property is fully covered. And if it's not fully covered, then it pretty much pushes down to partially covered. A fully covered rental unit is anything that was built prior to 1995 and is 2 units or more on the property. So if your property doesn't fall within that section, then you push it down to the partially covered. And a partially covered is pretty much if it's a single family home or a condominium that was built after 1995.
All right. So are you willing to take a rent deposit question?
Rent deposit, sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Golden Rock Group, what is the cap on rent deposits on a single family home?
On a single family home, I know that they were going to pass a statewide local law that was coming into effect. And I believe the cap at that point is one month's worth of rent.
Right. So yeah, and
For a security deposit.
Yeah, for the security deposit, I'm not sure. Let's check on that one. I kind of think that they're exempt. I think
If it's a, oh, yes, correct. My apologies. They are, if it's a single family home, then they're exempt. So 2 months worth of, is the rent is sufficient.
so
for
they still
security
can do that.
deposit.
Hey,
Yes.
and I forgot to mention this on the front end. For those of you that are AOA members, I interviewed 3 different property management company CEOs, and I just asked them what their rental criteria were. And I thought it was pretty eye-opening. It was kind of across the whole state. Those guys were spread out a little bit, and it's interesting to listen to that. That's only in your AOA member portal on the videos tab. So definitely take a look at that one because I know a lot of people is this the season to move, right? And so we're trying to time things and get you information that's going to help you here. All right, Shelley, please explain unincorporated versus incorporated again. So
Yeah. So I'll give an example here. So I'm situated in the city of Los Angeles. So if I own a property in the city, we know that the city of Los Angeles sits within the county of Los Angeles, right? So if I have a property, a multifamily, for example, that's in the city of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles has their own local rent control ordinance. So I know that the unincorporated county won't apply to me because the city of Los Angeles is an incorporated city. So another trick that I would tell my clients to do is if you just look up on Google, and for example, I could use the city of Gardena again. If you look up if Gardena is an incorporated city, it will let you know that Gardena, it was incorporated on a specific date. So if it tells you that, then that means it is an incorporated city. That even though it's situated within this city, within the county of Los Angeles, it is still an incorporated city. So what would help you more to determine, oh, okay, well, I'm in Gardena, so does Gardena have a local rent control ordinance? And at that point, you could do some research on Google, or you could call, my office, and we could help you with that.
great. And so incorporation, the city of LA is incorporated as a city, the city of Burbank, Pasadena. So there are cities, and growing up here, like I grew up in Sherman Oaks. I thought Sherman Oaks was its own city. Come to find out, no, that's part of LA. That's just LA City. It's just a part of it. And
exactly.
So yeah, if you're incorporated as a city, then you're separate from the city of LA. And if you're incorporated as a city, like Burbank, Shelley here is asking a question. Could you explain unincorporated versus incorporated, or what was it? No. Another one, they're asking about how's the city of LA, city of Burbank classified. So they're not LA City, they're not LA County. Where do they fall? What would they fall under?
They have their own local ordinances. So the city of Burbank is incorporated. I believe they have their own housing division. And I think as far as for a landlord to understand, it's the properties in Burbank, they have a couple different things that's different. They don't have a local rent control, but what they do is they pretty much follow the Tenant Protection Act, However, there is a little bit minute differences as far as if you want to evict a tenant for, for example, if you want to do a renovation or if you want to do owner move-in, they have their own differences compared to the other cities. But for the most part, they tend to follow suit with the Tenant Protection Act, which is the statewide rent control.
Yeah, and plug in there, we have a great community of apartment owners in the city of Burbank. And the city council is really looking at instituting rent control. And man, we really could use your participation in the meetings there. And even I believe it's the 4th. The 4th, there's a meeting. Don't quote me on the 4th on my date, but I know it's next week for sure. And they're going to be giving a proposal about rent control, or I believe not a proposal about rent control. I take that back, but it's related, and so that's actually a good meeting to go to if you're in Burbank, and if you need information about it, just give us a call or email us at membership@aoausa.com, and I'll be able to get you more information on it.
And I also wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
I get these questions all the time, and I have a lot of clients who own property, even in the city of LA, and they ask me, how do I know if my property is rent controlled? It's really, it's the easiest way to figure that out. And here's a little trick is if you type in on Google, you type in ZMUS. And what ZMUS does is there's actually, you put in your address and then they have a tab that says housing. And under housing, it lets you know whether if the property is under the rent stabilization ordinance or not. And then also, even going greater than that, for example, if you're in the city of Los Angeles and you're not sure if your property is unincorporated or incorporated, if you really want to figure that out, again, go back on ZMUS, put in the property address. If the property address comes up on ZMUS, then you're within the city limits of the city of LA. If you're not, then you fall into the unincorporated.
Great. Yeah, I typed in zemus.com and it's not zemus.com. Just Google Zemus because it's actually zemus.lacity.org.
Correct.
Yeah. Z as in zebra, Zemus. So yeah, so that's that one. Great. Glad that you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see who else. Okay. Does the city of Long Beach have rent increase restrictions?
I believe they do. But again, and I want all your viewers to know this, it really depends. What kind of a property do I have here? Do I have a multi-family? Do I have a single family home? Is it a condominium? And then once you determine those, then you can really break down to where you situate. And that's really important. It goes to rent increases. It goes to evictions. It all depends on what kind of a property do you have and where is it situated. So I believe Long Beach does have some rent caps, but again, it depends on what kind of a building it is.
Yeah. And also remember the trade show. You're in Long Beach, go to the trade show, because when I say there's 150 different vendors that are there, like you guys will be there.
Yeah.
You'll be there all day answering questions.
I will.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So you can
free legal advice. Free.
Them.
It's free legal.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you so much. I know there's a little confusion around it. And I think in 2 weeks, we'll have another one, max allowable increases for the whole state. The number's not even out yet, but we'll have a different live stream about that specifically and cover more areas. And this was really, really focused and specifically because, again, the date's coming up. Now's the time to serve the notice, the rent increase notice. So that's why we wanted to hit this one and hit it specifically. Bijan, thank you so much for
my pleasure
for sharing with us. You guys see his number and everything. You could give him a call. These people answer the phone, and again, great reviews that you'll find on them. So search them up and don't take my word for it, and then give them a call and see what happens. And yeah, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, take care.
All right. Bye-bye.